You keep giving and giving, hoping they'll finally see your worth, but they don't. And the worst part, deep down, you know they never will. If you've ever felt invisible in a relationship, or like someone only keeps you around when it's convenient for them, you're not imagining things, and today, you're going to learn exactly how to handle it. There's something deeply painful about realizing someone doesn't value you. Maybe it's a friend who only calls when they need something. Maybe it's a partner who never shows up for you, emotionally or otherwise. Or maybe it's that coworker who takes all the credit for your hard work, acting like you don't exist unless they benefit from you. It doesn't just hurt. It eats away at your sense of worth, and over time, it starts making you question if you're the problem. But let's make something clear. Being devalued by someone else doesn't mean you're not valuable. It means they don't see or choose not to see what you bring to the table. And the truth is, you don't have to keep living in that space of emotional neglect or quiet desperation. You don't have to stay small or silent just to keep someone else comfortable. You have the right to set boundaries, to speak up, and to walk away if necessary. In this video, we're going to break down 5 powerful ways to handle people who treat you like you don't matter. We're not just talking about cutting people off. That's not always the first or even the right move. We're going to talk about how to reclaim your value, protect your peace, and stop giving energy to people who wouldn't notice if you disappeared tomorrow. And if you're sitting there thinking, but what if it's my family or someone I love? We're going to talk about that too. Stick around, because by the end of this, you'll walk away with more clarity, confidence, and maybe even a little peace of mind. You'll learn that your value doesn't shrink just because someone else fails to see it, and that you don't need to prove your worth to people who were never looking in the first place. Let's start with the first and most important thing you need to know when someone doesn't value you. You have the power to teach people how to treat you. If someone constantly ignores your boundaries, overlooks your contributions, or dismisses your feelings, it's not just about what they're doing, it's also about what you're allowing. That might sound harsh, but it's actually incredibly empowering. Because it means you're not helpless in the situation. You can respond. You can change the dynamic. You can draw the line. The first way to handle someone who doesn't value you is to stop overextending yourself. When someone makes you feel invisible or small, our default reaction is often to try harder. We do more. We give more. We become more available. We overcompensate in hopes that they'll finally see our worth. But here's the truth. They've already decided how much you're worth to them. And no amount of bending over backwards will change that if they're committed to undervaluing you. Instead, pull back. Create space. Let them notice your absence. Sometimes the best way to show someone your value is by removing your presence. It's not about being cold or playing games, it's about protecting your energy. If they reach out, great. If they don't, that's your answer. The second way is to set clear boundaries without apology. You don't need to justify why you won't tolerate disrespect. You don't need to explain why you're saying no. If someone keeps crossing your boundaries, it's time to stop giving second, third, and 10th chances. Boundaries are how you protect your peace, your energy, your mental health. If someone gets mad when you say no, that's a sign they were benefiting from your lack of boundaries, not from your presence. Next, you need to evaluate the relationship for patterns, not moments. Someone might be kind to you once in a while, but if the overall pattern is one of dismissal, disrespect, or neglect, that's what counts. Don't confuse occasional good behavior for genuine value. Ask yourself, do I feel emotionally safe with this person? Do I feel seen, heard, and appreciated? If the answer is no, more often than yes, then that's the truth you need to pay attention to. Fourth, stop seeking validation from people who've shown they can't give it. It's natural to want approval. We're wired to seek connection. But the trap is when we tie our self-worth to how someone else treats us. If they approve of us, we feel good. If they ignore us, we spiral. That's not healthy, and it puts your emotional well-being in the hands of someone who might not care enough to protect it. You have to give yourself the validation you're begging for from them. And that starts by recognizing your own worth, no matter what they say or do. And finally, be willing to walk away. This is the hardest part, especially if the person is someone close to you, a partner, a family member, a best friend. But if someone constantly makes you feel unimportant, unwanted, or unseen, you have to ask yourself, what's the cost of staying? What's it doing to your heart, your self-esteem, your peace? Sometimes loving yourself means choosing distance over dysfunction. It means accepting that not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. Even if you once gave them that seat out of love, none of this is easy. It takes courage to pull back, to speak up, to walk away, but it's worth it. Because you deserve to be surrounded by people who see you, who hear you, who value you, not because you're perfect, but because you're you. Your worth isn't up for negotiation. And anyone who doesn't recognize it isn't meant to stay close. Here's where things get tricky. A lot of people stay in relationships where they're not valued because they're scared of the alternative. The fear of being alone. The fear of conflict. The fear of starting over. It's real, and it keeps people stuck in friendships, jobs, even marriages that drain them. That's the problem. We get so used to being undervalued that it becomes our normal. We tell ourselves, maybe it's not that bad, or at least they're not doing this, or it's better than nothing. But is it? Is feeling small, overlooked, or unwanted really better than being free? This is the emotional trap so many fall into. We confuse connection with closeness. Just because you're physically around someone doesn't mean you're emotionally connected. Just because they reply to your messages or hang out with you doesn't mean they value you. You might be an option to them, not a priority. And that gap between what you're giving and what you're receiving creates a slow erosion of your self-worth. It chips away at your confidence. And before you know it, you're shrinking yourself just to stay in someone else's comfort zone. That's the cost of staying where you're not valued. You start questioning if you're asking for too much, when really, you're just asking for the basics: respect, consistency, honesty, care. These aren't luxuries. They're the foundation of any healthy relationship. And here's the truth. People treat you how they see you. And how they see you often depends on how you present yourself. If you present yourself as someone who will tolerate neglect, silence, or manipulation, then that's what you'll continue to receive. But the moment you start showing up for yourself, the moment you decide that you're no longer available for half-hearted connections, the whole game changes. That's the challenge in front of you. Can you stop waiting for someone to value you and start valuing yourself first? Because when you do, you shift the entire dynamic. You go from begging for attention to commanding respect. You go from feeling like a backup plan to becoming your own main character. It's not easy, but it's powerful, and it's possible. Let's dig into what it looks like when you finally start handling someone who doesn't value you. The first thing you have to understand is this: not everyone deserves access to you. Just because someone used to be close to you, or because you've known them for years, doesn't mean they get to stay. Time doesn't equal value, effort does. And if they're not putting in any, it's okay. Actually, it's necessary to set boundaries. The first way to handle it is with distance. And I'm not talking about a dramatic, cut everyone off moment. I'm talking about quiet, intentional space. Stop chasing. Stop texting first. Stop showing up for people who wouldn't notice if you disappeared. Watch what happens when you stop watering a dead plant. The people who care will notice. The ones who don't, they'll stay silent. And that silence will tell you everything you need to know. Second, speak up. Silence is not strength if it's eating you alive. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is, "This doesn't feel good for me anymore." It's not about blaming or arguing. It's about truth, calm, clear, and direct. You deserve to be honest with yourself and with others. And if your honesty makes someone uncomfortable, that's their work to do, not yours. Third, don't explain your worth. You don't need to put together a PowerPoint presentation of your value to convince someone to treat you right. The right people already know. The wrong people will never see it. No matter how loud you speak, it's not your job to teach someone how to care. Either they do or they don't. Fourth, pour into yourself. When someone makes you feel small, it's time to go big on self-love. Get back to the things that light you up. Your hobbies, your goals, your peace. Reconnect with who you are outside of their opinion. Because here's the kicker. When you start valuing yourself, other people have no choice but to rise to that level or fall off. And finally, know when to walk away. This is the hardest one, especially when emotions are involved. But if someone consistently shows you that you don't matter, believe them. Stop making excuses for their behavior. Don't romanticize their potential. Pay attention to their patterns. If they can live without respecting you, you can live without their presence. This is not about being harsh or cold. It's about being real. You don't have to fight. You don't have to beg. You just have to stop allowing disrespect to sit at your table. You're not asking for too much. You're just asking the wrong person. And when you let go of what's draining you, you make space for what's meant for you. Now let's talk about why this is so hard. Why it can feel almost impossible to walk away from someone who clearly doesn't value you. Because honestly, it's not just about them. It's about you. It's about how much you've already invested. The memories you've made. The way you've convinced yourself that maybe if you just try a little harder, they'll change. That hope. That maybe it's what keeps you stuck. But here's the truth. If someone constantly makes you feel like you're not enough, like your presence is optional, like your love is disposable, that's not love. That's manipulation. And most of the time, you're not actually in love with the person. They just represent a version of love you think you deserve. Maybe you've been taught that love is supposed to hurt a little, that proving yourself is part of the deal. But it's not. Here's the trap a lot of us fall into. We start believing that how someone treats us is a reflection of who we are. If they ignore you, maybe you're too clingy. If they lie to you, maybe you're too demanding. If they disappear, maybe you're too much. And slowly, that internal dialogue chips away at your confidence until you start editing yourself to fit their comfort. This is where the healing has to begin. Not with trying to fix them, not with endless conversations or justifications, but with asking yourself, why do I tolerate being undervalued? What part of me believes this is all I'm worth? And once you start digging into that, once you face that uncomfortable truth, things start to change. Not because they change, but because you do. You become less available for one-sided effort, less patient with empty apologies, less forgiving of bare minimum behavior. You start noticing red flags the first time, instead of the fifth. You stop waiting for closure and start creating your own peace. You begin to rebuild the relationship you have with yourself. And when that happens, your standards naturally rise. Not in a cold, defensive way, but in a grounded, powerful way. You no longer beg to be chosen. You realize you already are. This isn't about becoming hard or bitter. It's about becoming whole. And wholeness doesn't need validation from someone who can't even see your worth. It's okay to grieve the loss of who you thought they were. It's okay to feel the sadness, the anger, the confusion. But don't unpack there. Don't let someone else's inability to love you well become the narrative you carry forward. This is your life, your peace, your story. You get to decide who deserves to be part of it. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is walk away quietly and start over with yourself. And here's the moment of truth. The part where it all clicks, not just in your head, but in your spirit. That turning point where you stop blaming yourself for someone else's lack of effort. You stop twisting into knots to earn crumbs. You stop confusing being needed with being valued. And finally, you realize that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't to fight harder for the relationship. It's to stop fighting for someone who isn't fighting for you. Because you've tried, you've given grace, you've been patient, but now you see it for what it is. Their inability to love you doesn't mean you're unlovable. Their distance isn't a cue to chase. It's a mirror showing you they were never emotionally available in the first place. That's not rejection. That's redirection. And you don't owe anyone endless chances just because you have a good heart. This is where boundaries are born, not out of anger, but out of clarity. You learn to speak up, not to argue, but to honor yourself. You choose silence, not as a punishment, but as protection. You no longer accept bare minimum behavior dressed up as effort. And the most beautiful part, you stop trying to convince someone to see your worth and start surrounding yourself with people who already do. That shift, when your peace matters more than their attention, is everything. That's when healing begins. That's when you stop running in circles and start walking in purpose. You stop shrinking to fit someone else's comfort and start expanding into who you were created to be. And that's when the cycle ends, not with drama or revenge, but with a quiet decision to choose yourself. And from that moment on, everything changes, not because they suddenly wake up and appreciate you, but because you did. You're not crazy for wanting to be treated with respect. You're not asking for too much by wanting to feel seen, heard, and valued. You're not being dramatic or sensitive or needy for expecting consistency, kindness, and honesty. Those aren't luxuries. They're the bare minimum in any real relationship. And deep down, you know that. But here's what often happens. When someone doesn't value you, they don't say it out loud. They show it in the missed calls, the one-sided conversations, the way your needs always feel like a burden. It's in how they disappear when you need them most, but expect you to show up every time they snap their fingers. It's in how they turn your emotions against you, making you feel guilty for even bringing up how you feel. So here's the truth. When someone doesn't value you, God doesn't want you to stay trapped in that dynamic. He's not asking you to suffer endlessly just to keep peace. He's not asking you to keep pouring into a cup that's never poured back into you. Sometimes, walking away is the most spiritual thing you can do. Sometimes, the boundary you set is the blessing you need. God didn't create you to be invisible. He didn't design you to constantly question your worth. You were made with intention, value, and purpose. So when someone treats you like you're disposable, like your heart is optional, that's not a test you need to pass. That's a red flag you need to honor. You can love them, you can pray for them, but you don't have to keep them close. Your peace matters. Your healing matters. And most importantly, your value doesn't decrease just because someone else refuses to recognize it. The moment you finally see yourself the way God sees you is the moment you stop settling for anything less. That's when you stop begging for the bare minimum and start expecting the love you deserve. And it's not too late to start.